Hello, everyone. Welcome to Todd Talks. Today, we are joined by the esteemed and apparently incredibly tall Adam Lee, coming from the Wizards D&D studios.
I am incredibly tall in
How
certain
is
areas.
the moon landing on Avernus doing
It
right
was
now?
it was good. Mwah. Yeah,
uh,
it's
Today
delightful
we are
down
talking
here.
about. Oh yeah. Today we're talking about Baldur's Gate: The Descent into Avernus, and Adam Lee will be answering all of your questions having to do with the book he wrote.
All of them. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
I do have like a first question just for myself. What is today like for you?
It's
Because you led the charge on this.
yeah, I mean, as always, the books that we do, team effort. And so many people are involved, so it's hard to say that this is my book or something like that. No, it's a D&D team effort. So a lot of people put a lot of hard blood, sweat, and tears into this. I am one of the people that worked on this. And having said that, it is a surreal day for me. This is very near and dear to my heart. It's something I put a lot of energy and love into. And leading up to this, the whole thing has been an amazing experience. It's been very Dickens' best of times, worst of times. It's been a creative challenge, and it's also been an absolute delight and a joy. And to work with the people I work with, it's a privilege. So um, the last couple of days, especially, to see the books come in from the printer, have them physically in my hands, to have the dice pack there, all the hard work that we've all done, actually to be a physical product, and then to start getting early reviews and to have people say such kind things, and starting to see the ideas being generated from the people who are now have it in their hands, and they're starting to come up with, like, what about this and what if that, can we do this, can we do that, and making their own stories. That's the what my job's all about. And so it has been an amazing, I'm happily exhausted at the same time, and so so it's been great. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, it is. It is one, and I've talked at length with you about this before. But it is one of those books that it provokes thought. It provokes more creativity. Like
Yeah.
you read only so many paragraphs, and you're like, oh, what if it goes this direction? What if it goes that direction? Because there are so many ideas. There are so many toys in this, and I know it's not officially called a campaign setting, but Avernus really has that much content in the book that feels like a D&D campaign setting. And
Yeah.
you and I discussed in a couple of videos that are going to come out fairly soon, just how the way this is so well structured for Avernus, the Blood War, what demons care about, what devils care about, the different characters that you can find in Avernus. It's a great bedrock to so many different campaigns, so many different supernatural D&D settings where, okay, I get it. I get what the devils want. I get what this evil threat is after.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the book, because it definitely opens you up to, like, if you want a supernatural campaign or a Constantine like campaign, or just demon fighters in the prime material plane. Now you know what lies under, lies beneath, and
Yeah. Yeah, I
it's
mean,
it. That's why it's so strong.
yeah, this thing, when I look at it, I'm actually surprised. Avernus is one of the hallmarks of Avernus is that it is a supernatural domain that shifts and it defies laws of physics. And when I read this book, I'm actually thinking it kind of defies the laws of physics. There's so much packed into this. You've got an Avernus source book, really, that gives you insight into how Avernus works, how the Blood War works, games that you can play with devils and demons. You have information about how to make deals. You also, within it, you get a Baldur's Gate Gazetteer that it's a source book for Baldur's Gate. You can use that alone to then create tons of campaigns just with Baldur's Gate itself. And that can kind of tie into what we're working on with Larian, it's their game. It's like you could play that game and then get all these ideas from that and then refer to this book for a bunch of games based on that. So there's a lot that we've packed in here, and I'm kind of amazed. And credit to Chris Perkins again, the master, to be able to organize all this information in such a way that it flows, it reads great, and all the people who provided material for it. It's just, I still blows my mind, and I think it's so rich with material that people are going to be using this for years and years and years and years to come. Yeah,
I find Chris Perkins' level of talent to be awe-inspiring and disconcerting all at the same time.
frightening. It's frightening. Yeah, yeah. He used to sit next to me, and then he just moved over the wall, and I'm kind of like, a little bit
Oh,
like real like sad, but then I'm kind of like happy because it's like being next to that machinery of madness and wonder and delight. It's frightening. Yeah, he's but
long-term exposure can be dangerous to Chris
yeah,
Perkins.
yeah. It'll either make me live like another 50 years or then it'll
Right.
kill me young. I don't know. But yeah, no, I'm constantly learning from that guy and what he does and how he just maintains this massive he has this ability to take tons of information and then to just organize it in such a way that it's fun and legible and understandable. And so I still have tons to learn from him, and I look forward to the next, however many more years I've got doing this. So
We
yeah,
can always clone him. We can always clone him. Yeah.
I'm sure there's many simulacrum that exist in
I'm
the multiverse.
pretty sure he is a clone. So yeah. They just keep on remaking him. We do have a question from chat already. We have Dark Abyss Keeper, which is a great Twitch handle.
Love it.
Question: without spoiling too much, is there anything in particular that you always wanted to do? I assume with D&D that you managed to get in the Descent.
Um, Vehicle combat. Yep. That was something that I've always, ever since like the early days of Car Wars and just the stuff that my brother and I and my friends, we kind of, homebrewed on our own using D6s or whatever we were playing around with. Just a really cool, fun way to have vehicle combat. And leading up to that, I think Mike and Ben Petrosor and a few others were playing around with different. They did some stuff in Saltmarsh with ship to ship battles,
Mm-hmm.
but then it was like when this product came out, we were like, it's going to be like this Mad Max Fury Road vibe, and we need to have cars smashing in. How do we do the movie and make that happen? And so we had R.A. Levitch, myself, and we had Sean Merwin and James Incasso and Will Doyle, and tackle this product or problem. And I think what they came up with was a lot of fun. It's easy to understand, and it was kind of based on what Perkins did with the Tomb of Annihilation dinosaur race sort of
Yeah.
mechanic that was so tight and so simple and so effective. And I was like, can we kind of approach that kind of thing? And Ari and the gang did a great job, I think, coming up with something that works great and gives the flavor of that Mad Max feel. So and then Perkins added his touches, and it just came together. And I think it's also expandable because there's an area where you can create your own sort of stuff. You create your own armor and your own weapons for these machines, and that's really the fun part of it. I think you've got your basic, you understand how it works, and then from there your imagination can just go and just make up whatever you want.
That it is something. It makes, and this is again the thing about Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. It makes me think of other things I want, and that's never never a good thing for you, for all of you. Because like when I was just thinking about like there is so much customization for Infernal and War Machines, and kind of everything that you would ever want. Like whether you're shooting out water from the river Styx, whether you have a screamer, like you're just like cranking like a kind of a murdy-gurdy in the back of the thing that's
Yep.
like creating psychic damage. Or I was very thrilled with the uh, why am I forgetting the name of this, the wrecking ball, because live at the descent, I was able to, because one of our players, TJ Storm, was playing his character
Oh yeah,
Keen and on my
DJ.
show, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to swing over there on the wrecking ball to try to get to
That's the way you do it.
get over to the other infernal war machine." I'm like, "So how are you swinging in?" And he just looked at me like, "Don't make me do it, Todd." I'm like, "Sing it."
Yeah.
Sing it
Yep.
if you want that sweet, sweet advantage.
Yeah. You want inspiration? You got to sing it.
You gotta sing it. It
Yep.
does make me suddenly want that for magical items now. Now I want customizable magical items. Like you put a gem here, you put a hilt here, and it does all kinds of different things. This is why I'm not allowed to have ideas in D&D, because I'll probably just destroy it and
Oh
break it.
no, you are allowed to have ideas, my friend.
You are allowed to
They
have
are all
ideas.
gold.
You are also allowed to keep them to yourself. Yeah. Now I want customizable magical items. Yeah, here's a very good question. This is coming from Blue's Clues. Does the
Sweet.
book consider fueling vehicles to be evil? Because you
Um,
do have to put a soul coin in one to start it.
I'm trying to think if the book explicitly says so, and I know that in some areas it says, when you are holding a soul coin, you uh, they are uh, made manufactured by evil, designs. So, and if you put a soul coin into a war machine, it annihilates that soul. So, um, it's a DM call in your world. However, my own feeling is that anytime you're handling soul coins and you're not releasing them back to let the natural order of the multiverse kind of deal with them, it's if you're annihilating them as an act of your own will, then I do feel that's most likely a very evil act, and it's going to kind of go on your sort of your akashic record of good or evil tilt.
Why would you make it so
So
insidious? Because everyone wants to be in an infernal war machine.
yeah, yeah.
But
So
you
if you're going
clearly
to
have to
use the
burn up a soul.
tools, yeah, if you use the tools of hell, the nine hells, then you are definitely sort of buying in to their system, which is inherently of its nature evil. So a paladin in the nine hells really has to deal with a lot of heavy issues, and just being in Avernus itself is going to grate on you and is going to wear you down and might even have some exhaustion effect on you, depending on how the DM wants to play it. I know I've said in previous talks that a DM will, as you're going through it, or a DM to keep reminding you through little flavor things. It doesn't even necessarily have to be something that mechanical based, but just little things to tell you that this is a miserable place. It's wearing on your nerves. There's always sand in your underwear. There's always a fly in your, helmet. There's something going on that's irritating. And that kind of thing to constantly remind a player that you're not in Kansas anymore. You're now in this awful place. Um, and if you're going to deal with people down here, if you're going to use the machinery, if you're going to engage in commerce, you are now getting woven into the evil tapestry that is Avernus. And a player that's not kind of paying attention to that, a DM can start to make consequences for those actions later on as the game progresses. Whether your character, if you really engage in it and you really do some evil stuff, you may start to develop. Your skin may start to turn a shade of crimson. You may start to sprout little horns. You may get some wicked looking infernal scarring that starts to manifest on your body. You might start to grow a tail. Like things will start to tell you that hey, you're making too many evil choices and it's going to now affect what who your character is and how they sort of operate. So yeah, long answer to the short question. Yeah, it's very evil.
It reminds me a little bit of second edition Ravenloft. The dark
Mm.
powers would grant you gifts over time, and yeah,
Oh
you would
yeah,
have
buddy.
all kinds of weird transformations would occur for being evil.
Yeah.
That's a very good answer. This adventure sounds like it will have paths involving redemption and damnation. Yes. Uh,
Yes. Yes,
it
indeed.
does. This is coming from Zool. Wait, no, not coming from Zool. Coming from Erman. That would have been way better if it was coming from Zool. Is there a path you're most interested in seeing players take?
Ooh. Um, well, when we were kind of coming up with this, right in the very beginning, when we had the Jim Zub in for the story push, we started talking about like what are the major themes, and one of the thing was is, and I've said this before, is the righteous path is the most difficult path. I would be interested in hearing if somebody running a paladin or a cleric or just a noble fighter or rogue or whatever, that they actually followed the righteous path and didn't touch anything.
Yeah.
Could they make it? It's like doing this on hard mode or nightmare mode. It's I don't think it can be done, but it would be really interesting to see how somebody does it. And I think it could be.
Especially
I
if it's
mean, it
surprising who does it.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, to kind of play off like against type, like a rogue that
Yeah.
suddenly just has this epiphany of like, I'm not going to touch any of this stuff. I'm already evil enough as it is on the material plane. If I start to tilt in Avernus, I could be lost for good. So I'm not going to touch anything. I'm going to stay on the path. I'm not going to mess with any of this stuff. Um, that would be interesting, and there are things built into the adventure that help that kind of player and character along. So it's not insanely miserable. There are rewards for that kind of a path, and I think it would be now conversely. I think you'd mentioned the last one of just a character just going like I'm all in, give me all the evil,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that whole campaign would probably collapse in the first day, but that would be a riot. I would be interested to see where those diabolical characters wound up, and I imagine it would be on the front lines of the blood war, being
Yeah, yeah.
being sent into the demon wall. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see that. I see that as both options are very interesting to me because I do have because I was joking with you actually about my main character, and I actually thought about it. I'm like, he wouldn't do it. He's
Yeah.
very evil in so many ways, but he would never. There are certain lines he's never crossed, and I think that's
Yeah.
like I think there's different kinds of evil. And it's interesting that you bring up rogues because sometimes it's not who you steal what you steal, it's who you steal from, right? Like
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
low level versions of evil,
Yeah.
but then you hit this wall of like this is just absolute wrong.
Yeah. And I
How
think
can you not
rogues
see this?
Yeah, like rogues and evil characters, who are I think they've stared into the abyss, and so
Right.
they know the depths that which this thing goes, and they're like, "Whoa." Whereas I think, some of the other kind of player characters, like, some clerics or paladins, they may just hear it in a book and it sounds very romantic and fanciful, but they don't really understand viscerally the depths that this goes, and what it means to lose your soul, what it means to be irredeemable. And I think characters that have tippy-toed on the edge of that abyss respect it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, evil is not a joke. Like evil's not this haha thing. It's really bad, and we have to stop it. We cannot touch it. We cannot go near it." And I think there are some paladins and some clerics and good aligned characters that understand that. But I think that would be if I was playing an evil character, who tends towards evil, but once they get into Avernus, and then they're like, "Oh, now this is the big show, and I'm not going to mess around here because I know where this goes." So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I also see characters like there's been recent unearthed arcana and I see characters that have been touched by like the far realms
Oh man.
um
Yeah.
knowing better somehow, right? like
Yeah.
like like
Yeah.
there is a weird absolutism to the far
Mm,
realms in my mind. Like there's something primordial about the far realms. And if you're that kind of creature,
yeah.
um I think like mind flayers would be like, no.
Yeah.
Like the elder brain would be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. The holders also are like, why would you do any of these things? Why would you make any deals? This is a terrible idea. This is our wheelhouse.
Yeah, because there's
Um,
it's when you touch the far realms, it's like being burned by a hot stove. You've touched the stove and you're like, wow, that's
yeah,
well, I'm not going there again. Whereas the wizard that it hasn't is dabbling with the far realms, is curious, and hears, reads stuff in books and is like, oh, there's power, and there's things that haven't been understood there. I'm going to go explore, and they haven't been burned by the stove yet.
Right.
And then it's like, welcome, welcome to
I
the
think
far
those were the
realms,
first.
buddy.
Those are the first. Those are the first to fall.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. They sometimes they don't come back all in one piece. Yeah.
this is coming from Zool from Twitch.
Zoo.
Question: how do you balance giving the DM enough direction and not constricting freedom to fun? How freedom to fun? How the DM wants to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It that is the art of adventure writing. Chris Perkins is the master of that. I understand it to some degree as best as I can. And it is a balance. It's how prescriptive do we want it to be, and how much do we just allow, we just give the basic information. So our premise is that we are writing these for generally novice DMs, because we want people who are just excited about D&D, and they pick up the book and they're like, wow, haven't done this before. I've seen Matt Mercer do it on Critical Role. I've seen Perkins do it on Dice Camera Action, and I've looked at some YouTube stuff. I'm excited. I want to do this. And so we're writing for that person.
Hmm.
Expert DMs, then we kind of don't need to handhold them, and they can figure it out either way. But we really want to make sure that novice DMs feel like they understand this stuff when they get it. We don't want it to be too convoluted and sort of out of the world. That being said, we don't want to get so handholdy that we cut away at the power of the imagination, because that's where the real magic of Dungeons and Dragons is. It's getting a little seed. We want to plant a little seed in your head, and that you go, oh my gosh, I just have this visual now. And a lot of the times we when Kate Irwin does the art, we have the art there as the visual. The art, just
Yeah.
seeing the realm right there, gives you the idea that you need to then run that encounter. So and
It's
sometimes we
so
hit it,
affecting.
and
It's
sometimes we miss it.
so yeah, yeah. It's art is
Yeah.
so affecting. It's it
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I actually just got concept art and it codified a character I've been writing.
Ah,
Like
dude, that's
just the
great.
art.
Yeah. It's
Like
weird,
cuz
isn't it? Just
I
like,
just it was well, I won't say it's a surprise, so I'm not going to say who, but
oh,
a notable
sweet.
artist who is also in the D&D world was like drawing something for me and showed just the silhouette. And I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
get this character more than I've ever gotten this character before. I now understand who this is."
Yeah.
Um, art
I
is
mean,
it's just so amazing.
that would be actually an amazing Todd Talk if you guys want to do it. Just get Richard Witters on here and just talk about character and how art and character. I've learned a lot from Richard about just how to putting heart into characters. How a lot of characters are just like nowadays in like movies and TV shows. They're just heartless. They're just these sort of like cardboard paper cutout people. And so what is it? What is it that makes an awesome character? Like, what is it that makes like a Han Solo? What is it that makes, a character that you root for? Within like the first 15 minutes, you see that character and you're just like, oh, I'm totally engaged. I'm totally into that. And Richard, being an animator and an artist, he understands that in a way that is really great. And it's so good to have him on the team, because he kind of does a heart and soul check for me with my writing and what I'm doing. And I run a lot of stuff by him, and he gives me tons of feedback, and a lot of Richard's sort of wisdom is in the characters in A Descent to Avernus, and in all the books that we've done since Out of the Abyss. Richard has been a big part of making the character sing, or making the character really interesting, or giving them some kind of twist. If not through just chats we've had with him, but then through his visual interpretation of it. So just like what you said, we can have a character. Richard draws a silhouette, and I'm just like, oh, give me that character back. I got to write some more stuff, because I've just got all these ideas from it. Like, he does facial expressions and things that he's learned with his background in animation, and just being an illustrator. It's just great, and yeah, you could talk for hours with him. It's fascinating. He's super cool.
All right, that's next at Todd Talks. We're bringing in Richard
Yep,
Withers.
bring him, man. You will have a blast, and people will learn tons.
uh, moving on, I could talk about art all day because it is because that's a big part of like even making the D&D books is concept art pushes
Yeah.
and
Oh my gosh.
giving the writers something to like sink their teeth into and use it as a point of inspiration. This is coming from the Hasty Tadpole. I feel like that's a reference to a mind flare. What? These are some amazing Twitch
It's a
handles,
tavern.
everyone. I feel like this needs to become a competition on future Todd Talks.
Yeah,
I'm a new
yeah, this is
DM,
great.
and my players don't want to make new characters. They survived the Tomb of Annihilation. I wouldn't either. That's actually part of the reason why I still have my character Avernus, because he survived the Tomb of the Tomb of Horrors back in the day. And I'm like yeah, I'm holding on to him. I understand I'll have to adjust the encounters, but how much of the story should be okay for higher level party? Uh,
Ooh, yeah. I mean, really,
I think it's very
yeah,
adjustable.
yeah, you could do it. Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
You know, you're a
if
new
you're looking at the
DM, so you got a little.
consequences,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, my 2 cents are like if you're looking at the consequences of what's happening in Avernus, it's not always about combat.
Nope.
Mostly not. It's about role playing. It's
Yeah.
about making the right or wrong decision. So I don't think necessarily it would be hard to scale that.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and all you do is just when you go down, you've got you're just dealing more with sort of archdevils. And they can wipe out pretty much any character they want. So there's still a lot of respect that say if you got out of the Tomb of Horrors in your 10th level or 12th level, yeah, sure, it's just going to be a different vibe to it, and yeah, you can dial it up. And I think even Perkins might have put in um, a few guidelines for higher level characters, because that's kind of one of the things we had to sort of um, deal with is like if you've got a gamer who just says, "Oh, I'm just going to sell my soul right off the bat and go to level 15 or something," then it's like, "Oh, well, here are some, tips that if you need to adjust it, here's what you do." So, yeah, yeah, I think it's doable. I think this adventure in particular takes a good amount of study from a DM to read the material and to really kind of based in it, and then depending on how immersive you want to get, if you're a DM that just wants every moment to live and breathe it, I'd say savor every little piece of this adventure, because you can just have one encounter, and it could be just so rich with that flavor of intrigue and the infernal sort of culture infusing into this story. So yeah, yeah, for sure, it
I
can
am
be done.
already going to be using Avernus as partial bedrock to a new campaign that I will be live streaming.
Oh
So I'm very
man.
excited. Well, it's just as like, okay, this is what lies beneath. Again, it's that it's gonna be good.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so
um
versatile. Yeah.
how are the connections between date wait well, first off, we have a question from JRaven187. Do we also get more information on how the Grey Old Ones fit into the world or anything like that? I don't believe we do.
No,
Correct?
no.
No. That's a
Yeah,
whole that's almost all entirely different genre, and they're so disconnected from anything. The Far Realms are
yeah.
so disconnected from anything happening in Avernus. Um,
And if you're a DM and you want to throw some of that stuff in there, then feel free to plug it in. If
right.
you got a warlock down there who's monkeying around, and there could be it could be time to switch patrons or something. There could be a thing that happens there. But yeah, we don't go into that because it's so chock full of other stuff.
Yeah.
Just
The Far
smash the
Realms
far
are
realms in there. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
tentacles and
a
everything.
tall order. I feel
Yeah,
like Avernus is very corporate evil, and in a certain
oh
sense, like
yeah.
there's a structure to everything, and you get into the Far Realms and the old ones, and it is not
Woo!
like that. No,
It's
things that
madness.
come out
Yeah,
of there might end up that way.
Yeah.
like beholders and mind flayers and several other things. But if you're in the far realms, it is play the video game Control, and you will have a good old time.
I haven't played that. Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah,
This is madness.
walk around in the video game Control, and you're like, okay, this is how weird things can get. Okay.
Oh gosh.
That's my advice. And it's a good example of a warlock. So if you want to play a
Oh.
warlock, you should check out either Dishonored or Control. Those are two
Dishonored,
great
yeah.
games. How are the connections between deities and patrons affected by being in or on Avernus versus being in the prime material plane? Is there any guidance on that? So you interacting with your patrons, you interacting with your gods, is the power lessened in any way, or is it more like flavor? Because I would recommend flavor of like, okay, well, it's a hard phone call. It's a long distance phone call.
Yeah, the line has got a bit of static on it. Yeah, you know, if you're a cleric and you've got your god, yeah, you're allowed to, you know, there's no diminishment of interaction that way. So yeah, you're fully supported. However, um, because this is the domain of the archdevils, they can listen in. They can listen into your stuff. So if you're using telepathy or anything like that, they can sort of tap your phone line, and
Okay.
you may hear whispering on the other end, or there's, you know, a chance that some of it could be intercepted. But yeah, as far as you know, divine intervention, all that, you're good to go. You're not sort of disconnected from your god. However, a DM that wants to throw in a little extra bit of intensity could create, like you're saying, like some flavor stuff where it is difficult, or they could even, you know, say if they want the story to really be rough at that point, you know, like you're in sort of a divine dead zone, you know, and
Hmm.
so you could play with that, but I think it's hard enough as it is, and I think clerics and paladins need as much sort of their divine powers as they need to be able to deal with this stuff. So unless there is a real reason why you wanted to do it, I think just let things kind of play out as they are.
I like the idea of a tap telephone. That also answers the question from Zool on Twitch. Do spells like augury or divination function properly while in Avernus? I think that's. I think they do from my reading of the book, but also be careful where you look. And that's my advice to players always.
Yes.
I have subjected my players many a time, even when they use Mind Spike or something like that. I'm like, you don't want to get attached or connected to something
Yeah.
like just the knowing of it of where something is
Yeah.
maybe deeply upsetting to you mentally.
And also,
So
we've done a thing where we did this in Curse of Strahd, where like spells down here, like if you cast Fireball down here, a DN has an option of describing it as it's like now cackling fiends go out. If you use
mm,
Mage Hand, it's like an infernal claw, you know, with talons on
yes.
it. So it just things magic looks different down here, and I think it adds a fun. We've got a list there that we've written that has all those sort of sample effects that you can use, and then you can make up your own. But yeah, we give you a bunch to kind of go on with and give you inspiration. So yeah, it
Oh, I
affects
love that.
magic. Yeah, it's really
I
fun.
love the idea of your magic automatically being reflavored when you're in
Yeah,
Avernus. Because
I
if
mean,
anywhere is gonna do that.
if you cast Find Familiar down in Avernus,
Yeah, of
look
course.
out. You're not going to get an otter, you know. You're going to get
I
something
had a druid
terrible.
live in Avernus for 6 months as their backstory. They didn't know that she was missing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
now she can shapeshift into any applicable CR rating creature that is a fiend.
Oh my
So
gosh. Oh,
so
that's
she
awesome.
finally pulled that trick off, and she became Hope Lavelle, who's playing Penelope Halfpie on my show, turned into a cackler. From from I believe
Oh
Ravnica,
my gosh.
or
Yeah.
so she turned one of those. So I thought that was like charming because like why not? Why not just give like if you're a druid and you've been living in Avernus, you eventually
Yeah.
connect. And I
Yeah.
love to break nothing. It's super creepy when you see a
Oh, that's
druid turn
great.
into a tiny little demon. Uh,
Oh man. Wow, that's cool. I love
Yeah,
it.
so think of different ways to flavor it for sure. I think, and
Hmm.
I love the spell idea. Doesn't matter if I start a new season 9 Adventures League character for Descent. I'm not quite sure. That's a very Adventures League question.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's a Chris Lindsay question. He will have all the answers for that. Or like Lisa Penrose, she would
Yeah,
definitely know the answer to that one.
James Introcaso. What are you doing in my chat, man?
James,
Okay, cool.
James, he's one of
Why are you in
the
my
key
neighborhood?
writers of this. Yeah,
How dare
I
he?
had a
No, he does have a
ton of fun.
question. What
Oh,
piece? He's a wonderful human being,
oh my
and a
gosh,
great DM actually.
we could actually have a
What
Todd talk just about James
we could.
and just
It'd be
how
weird
awesome he
without
is.
him. I mean, or like a
No, like just us talking about James.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's just talk about James. I'm
Let's just
hanging now. I'm. I love you both. Okay, so I'm answering his question though. What piece of the story? Uh, what piece of the story discovered through writing and discussions with the rest of the team surprised you the most?
Oh, piece of story that
Oh
writes.
man.
Whew,
See,
that's a
this
tough
feels
one.
like the most important thing about a writer's room to me is
Yeah.
like yeah, even just talking, hanging out with you as friends. You like, I'll have an idea, and you're like, "But what if this?" And then I'm like, "What if
Yeah.
that?" And
It
then we're
was.
like building like a Lego tower.
Yeah,
So that's like right. That's a writer's room.
I think the surprising thing of this was like developing the whole was developing the plan of Avernus. I think we went into it not really knowing what the heck Avernus was. Like not there wasn't a lot of lore about it. There wasn't a lot of like nitty gritty, and we're just like, what is this place? Where does it come from? And how did it get made? And what is the how's the blood war affected? And and then things like the river Styx and like you know what is how does that thing operate and what are its qualities and properties, how do people use it, how the demons
Yes.
use it, and then the commerce. Like we didn't know, like we had no idea about soul coins at that point. We had no idea
Yeah.
about what the interactions between devils were down there, and then we had no idea about warlords. So really, it's all the discussions that came out of this big giant world building session that kind of surprised me the most, which was like at the beginning we had sort of maybe Avernus and maybe a paragraph of lore about it, and at the end of it we come out with what we've got in this book. And so I've done world building, previously on Magic: The Gathering. Before this, Richard and I and Ari all worked together on that. So when we kind of moved onto this project, it was like building a Magic world. We kind of applied the same sort of, the same sort of principles that we've used building Magic worlds on this world, because we kind of were starting with from almost scratch. We knew some of it, but we needed stuff that not only was cool and interesting, that fit into the lore that already existed, but that served the purpose of the story that we were telling, which was the story of Zariel, and how her fall from grace and how she became the arch duchess of Avernus, and then also stuff that was fun for adventurers when you go in there. Like in a Magic world, you know, it's all for the card game, but for D&D, you actually have to have fun in this world, and what do adventurers do in this world? So
Hmm.
we always need to serve that purpose. So yeah, those are all surprising things, and just the journey on the way. There is this sort of weird feeling when we start with that, like when you're at zero and it's just a bunch of people in the room and we're all just kind of shooting stuff around. And there's that initial moment where it's just like, okay, we're just kind of blue skying and we're not going to get into details or nitty gritty right now. And then just ideas hit the wall, and then slowly over time that just kind of builds and builds and builds. And then we'll pull in, Jim Zub, and was just like, okay, here's what we got. And then getting all his ideas. And, Jim, of course, was the one who came with soul coins. And, that was one of his many contributions to it. So, and then, we brought in James and, Lisa, and then I was talking back and forth with MT Black in Australia. and those were the three main writers at the beginning of this to just sort of like hack out what this adventure could look like. And they would do a ton of work and then show me what they're doing, and then ultimately all that stuff then moved over to Perkins, and then that's when Perkins he got more writers and did more game design, and then magic happens and the book gets made. So yeah.
All right, we got 10 minutes left. We were going to go into a power round of questions. So I'm going
Sweet.
to, and some of these are okay. I don't want to ignore anyone, but Cyril question: will players be stuck in Avernus once they reach it, similar to Barovia, or will they be able to bounce around the planes at their will? I think that's kind of a secret, and you need to
Sure.
stay tuned.
DM
Question:
discretion.
DM discretion. Question: could
DM
the adventure
discretion.
be transplanted to another layer of the Hells? Any chance of seeing other books go into as much detail on the other levels of hell? I would go ahead and say probably nothing's impossible, but I think this is very Avernus specific. Avernus used to be
Yeah.
the land of good and plenty. It was originally planned to be welcome to Avernus, where everything's great and wonderful, and there's still like billboard signs about how wonderful it is to be here. But then
And
of
they're all
course the
wrecked.
demons came. Yeah, so it's got
Yeah.
that good kind of like Fallout kind of vibe in some ways.
Yeah. Little
We have a
pit boy
question from
going.
Pandas Will Rise, another amazing name.
Yes.
Can an abyssal chicken mate or crossbreed with a material plain chicken? That's up to your DM. Also, we're not going to answer that here. Uh,
It'll probably eat it.
it would probably just eat it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work out long term. Just relationship wise, and maybe also. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
only if it's in a praying mantis kind of way. Uh,
That's true.
So, are you going to describe the southern part of the Sword Coast and the Western Heartlands, like in Chapter 3 of Storm King's Thunder? Mm, let's
Mm,
see.
well, the Sword Coast is sort of where we're dwelling for the time being, and yeah, as we tell more stories, I'm sure more bits of it will be revealed, and maybe other parts of Faerun as well. So, stay
Are
tuned, peoples.
are we seeing any new backgrounds regarding this product? It's coming from Necromancy. I
Uh,
don't
there
believe
is
there
a
are any
section.
backgrounds specific to Avernus, is there?
No, not specific to Avernus, but for Baldur's Gate, yes. You will get sort of dark secrets. If your character is from Baldur's Gate, there is a dark secrets section that you have been involved because most people who kind of grow up in Baldur's Gate are caught up in some kind of thing, and there are we give you a whole series of dark secrets that you can have for your character that tie them into Baldur's Gate and what's going on. It's very fun, and then there are some backgrounds that are particular for Baldur's Gate. So enjoy those.
Zalora, any hints to the next round of books, specifically another planar book?
I'd love to
How could
say
we
tons of
talk about that?
stuff. We will make books of about planes and stuff. Yes.
How dare you? Spoiler
But I
alert.
can't. Yeah, I cannot say any specifics about what we're working on. Um, but I will tell you this: that every micron of my being and my soul wants to say all the things that we're working on because I'm very excited about them.
And I'm
They're
under about
they're
5 NDAs. I think I'm technically
yes,
under more NDAs than you are in some weird
yes.
way. Yeah.
Although I'm instantly incinerated in a bolt of fire if I
Yeah,
say anything wrong.
you lose your job, you're fired, and then you are incinerated. It's like kind of like
Yes.
leaving the mob. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
coming to your house later that
Yeah.
night.
They're just like,
Like,
"Hey, do you want to go on a fishing trip?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And then
yeah,
you
you've
get
been
out. And,
fired,
yeah.
but we'll see you later tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got your rod and your reel, and come on, we'll go. We got a boat. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
be
"Oh,
great.
that's great, man. This is awesome."
God, it's December. It seems like a weird time to go on a fishing
Yeah.
trip.
Wow,
I don't
really?
get
You want to
it.
go up the San Juan Islands? Oh, this is awesome.
Oh, that lake ice is
Yeah.
sure dangerous. So uh well, it's so creepy. Why did I say it out loud? What is your favorite piece of content that ended up on the cutting room floor? That cannot be answered.
Uh,
Um,
yeah. But there
will
were
we ever
fun.
have a future book that section dedicated to concept art? I love that edition. I love all
Uh,
of the art that is in the back of
yep.
Descent into Avernus. By the way, you go into the very back of the book and you see so much of the concept art and other art, and I love it. It's like an extended piece of fiction, seeing all that artwork at the end.
Yeah, and there are things in there that we don't explain. There's not a stat block for this weirdo little monster that Alexi drew, or there's something, crazy that Max did, uh, or there's a weird like landscape that Darkin did. So all that stuff is just imagination fodder for you to like, what is that thing, and what is that guy writing that thing? Like, oh, that's a weird thing. All right, I'm going to stat that up. And then, you also get to see sort of how Richard, Max, Alexi, Darkin all work together to kind of come up with these ideas, and how sort of like the legions of the devils and their armor got developed. That was a thing that we were like, there's there's the devils on the material plane, and they're just kind of like what you see in the monster manual. But devils in Avernus, they are part of legions, and that was already established before. So we're like, well, what does their armor look like? Do they have standards? How do devils, pit fiend control a legion of devils? Well, we explain all that, and there's magic items that allow them to multiply their telepathy. So it's not just one to one;
Hmm.
it's a multiple telepathy. So and then also you get to see demons. Now, demons, traditionally they're just like they look all different. But when a demons ride with their demon lord, so if a bunch of demons join Yenugu's band and they go to infiltrate and raid Avernus, they begin to morph and they begin to look like their demon lord. So
Hmm.
Yenugu's demons all start to have this sort of hyena jackally kind of look to them, and you can see how Richard and Max worked that out. It's really cool and really fun.
Uh, what's the most fun? I'm going to ask this question myself. I feel like we've answered a lot of these questions. We have a lot of multiplanar questions. People are
Oh
chomping
yeah.
at the bit for either more hell, or they're chomping at the bit for other planes of existence as well.
Sweet.
I think Descent into Avernus is a clear winner in the terms of like what people have been craving for a very long time.
Cool.
Uh,
That's great.
so that's what a lot of these questions are. Will there be more Avernus adventurers already? Like, that's always a good sign, right?
Yeah, yeah. Look on
Will
the
there be
DM's
more?
Guild. Yeah,
Will
I'm
there be
sure
more?
there'll
Yeah,
be
check out the
tons.
DMs Guild. Lots of talented people are making content that will
Oh yeah.
uh, certainly supplement more adventures in Avernus. There is also a ton of content in Descent into Avernus for you to riff off yourself.
Oh, endless.
Um, endless amount of content. So, uh, does Zerial like hot cocoa? I think all cocoa by its nature is hot in
Yeah.
Avernus.
She probably
Maybe
likes
it's
it
cold,
scalding though. Yeah, I'm sure she likes
or
it
it's like just
scalding.
frozen and gross.
Yeah.
Because you can never.
Yeah, once again, there's nothing good in hell. So, even if you had cocoa, it would have sand and grit in it, or they would just be
Mm,
filled with dead flies, or it would just taste like bile. Um, yeah, you're not going to get whipped cream in Avernus. So,
everyone likes bile cocoa.
yeah, it's probably the best you can get down there, unless, of course, you go to Mahadi's Emporium, Wandering Emporium. Then you can get the real thing. And oh my
You can,
gosh, there's nothing that tastes better than real cocoa and the Nine Hells. Let me tell you.
except for like a Fanta uh, or an icicle pop
Yeah. Oh, a
that melts
slushy. Whoo!
instantaneously.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Yeah,
That's
like
good.
people. I'm just seeing like insane amount of excitement in Twitch for Avernus. What is your favorite thing? Honestly,
Oh,
Adam, like, what is your favorite thing about this entire experience? This is like a life changing event.
yeah.
You have been a writer for Wizards for some time, and
Yeah.
now you got to spearhead a book that
Yeah.
doesn't happen every day in one's lifetime,
Nope.
and it
No.
has to just kind of.
It's
I
a
can't
highlight.
imagine what that
Yeah.
feels like.
It's one of the highlights of my career, and I'm very fortunate to have it happen, and I'm very grateful. A lot of people who have been doing it a long time, like Perkins and Emmy, Tunji and Kate Irwin, um, Jeremy Crawford, all back me up on this, and I'm very grateful to the team. They made it it was rough. I had some, rough goes on it to try to, figure this out and learn how, to really organize a book of this size. But I'm super proud of the work I did on it. And also I'm just, I'm kind of in sort of a weird space right now of just seeing it all come out and then just seeing the excitement that's been brewing about it. And yeah, I'm ecstatic. It's a highlight. So I'm enjoying this moment as much as I can, and I'm also back down to working on new stuff. So it's like I go into work mode and I get things done, and then I kind of come up for a bit and I go, and I just enjoy sort of the buzz from the community and seeing everybody come up with cool ideas and how they're going to take it their own way. And so yeah, it's really a great feeling.
I am. I'll never forget being in that partners meeting and the art splashing on top of the screen, and I just had to run over to you. I'm like, "That's the best thing I've seen."
I believe that was Darkin's Blood War piece, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that
he
was
is
the beginning of
amazing.
our friendship.
It was,
Like
and it
that
was
thing
a
you made on the screen is really good. All your
yeah.
ideas are good.
We had a Casablanca moment there. I think this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So
It was
yeah,
very, very, very
that's when I
exciting.
knew. I always felt that we'd made something really cool, and I was really stoked about it. And we had that licensing sort of partner meeting, and we had all those people in the room. And when I did that presentation, and I could feel, and afterwards, everybody just so excited, and the eyes and the minds going, the imagination going, and I just knew I was like, oh, I think we're onto something really cool here. This could be awesome. So yeah, and yeah, that's true. That was the first time we were hanging out chatting, man. So
All right, Adam
it's
Lane,
been a
thank you
good
so much
trip.
for creating this amazing book with all of the other writers as well. Baldur's Gate: The Descent into Avernus will be available, I believe, and I could be totally wrong, 9 p.m. Pacific time
Ooh, we
on
got
D&D
down to the
Beyond
hour now.
tonight. So that's like
Sweet.
midnight East Coast time. So the clock is ticking for you to send your players into hell. I would like to see a whole bunch of 9 p.m. Pacific time Descent into Avernus adventures cropping up all over the world. It's just going to be like several little hell lights all over the planet, right? Little bursts of flame as all
Yep.
these players get sent into the darkness. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be so creepy. Up next, we've got Roll20 Presents with the wonderful and talented Mr. Adam Coble. Be sure to hang out on the D&D Twitch stream to check out their show. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Todd. Awesome, as always.